Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I have my weekly recap video leading up to the North American Championships here on August 11th. Sitting about 6 weeks out at this point. And this week was the first official week of my peak leading into the competition. With first weeks of a new block, I would kind of call this a bit of a pivot week, right? You're pivoting from certain sets and reps to the next. Sometimes it can be a little bit awkward, like on this day one where I had sets of 5 with the safety bar squat. We've been pausing these for so long that it was kind of weird to be doing regular reps, to be quite honest. But since the weight was so light at 500 pounds, it was no problem at all. It'll be a good transition. Same thing with these snatch grip RDLs. The reps have gone up to 10s, but the weight's down to 405 pounds, which was a much welcomed deload for this day, as it's usually the most taxing of my days. Now, moving on to day 2, we've kind of pivoted to sets of 5 with the pause bench press. So I'm definitely happy to have pauses back in my training, because with last meet nationals, I felt like I just hadn't focused on my pause long enough on the bench, and whenever we got to meet day, it kind of bit me in the butt overall. So keeping it easy with 370 pounds, it was supposed to be an RPE 7. I would say probably undershot a little bit, but I wanted to start light to give me a place to progress over the next few weeks. And sticking with incline bench press, which we've been doing for a while now, but the reps are now back up to 12s. Starting with 265 pounds, I would say, overall, just like the other bench press, I could have gone a little bit heavier, but I didn't want to overextend myself on this first week. So pretty happy with how those went. Now, my camp schedule led to some pretty kind of cramped training sessions. So essentially I had to split day 2 into 2 days. So I did these RDLs on Wednesday, but I did the accessories and everything that went with these RDLs and the tempo bench on Thursday before doing my SB day Friday. So that kind of stacked up some fatigue for sure. Overall, RDL's pretty easy at 565 pounds. One of my favorite accessory movements, just because I feel like it helps with my weak spot on deadlift a whole lot. So, the combination of those and snatch grip RDLs are pretty welcomed at this point. And my second day benching, we just had 500 tempo. So we've slowed down the tempo. Used to be 300, now it's at 5. At 315 pounds, I would say it was, pretty handily done. But with that slow concentric part of the movement, or I guess it'd be eccentric, the slow eccentric, definitely was feeling sore at the end, which that's always a good feeling. And kind of rounded out this training session with, I guess this is a standing leg press. I want to call it a hack squat, but the mechanics of it remind me more of a leg press where you're just moving instead of the apparatus. But 3 plates here. I decided to switch it up from the pendulum squat and kind of just pivot as we move into this peak. Just for fun, to be quite honest. So we'll kind of ramp those up as the weeks go on. Now, moving into day 4, we've got some heavy squats followed by some squat reps, and then heavy bench followed by bench reps, and heavy deadlift followed by deadlift reps. So it was a long day of training. Started out with this heavy double with 655. Slowly whittling some weight off. So I could tell the mechanics are changing just a tiny bit, losing some weight. I am still feeling just as strong. And like I had said, because I had the overnight camp Tuesday into Wednesday, my training had been kind of cramped. And we're actually going down to Georgia tomorrow on Saturday. So I wasn't able to do my normal training on Saturday like I normally do. So I lost a rest day in there as well. So that definitely played a factor in being a little bit more sluggish. But overall, things moved, how they should at this point. And I'm ecstatic to be moving almost 300 kilos on the first week of a peak like this. So there we go. Pretty happy with the depth as well. Nice and deep, nice and easy. And this set was followed up by a couple sets of 5 at 575, so some back offs. Overall, these were on the easy side of things, which is how we like to keep it. Once again, depth feeling good. I feel like in the past year, I've really come around with keeping my feet planted on the ground with even contact, not coming up on my toes. That used to be a real big issue of mine on the squat, getting pitched forward a little bit and pulling me on my toes. So I'm not entirely sure what fixed that. I think it was actually partially wrapping my thumbs around the bar on my squat grip, which allows me to stay a little bit further back because the bar sits further down my back. But here we are. And like I said, pretty easy work, so not a whole lot to say here. I will say we haven't been in the high rep territory on this day 4 for a little bit. And I wouldn't call 5s high rep by any means, but they're higher than 2s, obviously. So that definitely accumulated some fatigue for deadlifts later on. But next on the docket was bench press. I had a heavy single at RPE 8 to start with, and then I was supposed to back that down 5 kilograms for my down sets of 4 for paused bench press. So overall, I'm pretty happy with how this 420 moved. It was definitely easier than an at 8, but I was apprehensive because of the back down sets only going down 5 kilos. I didn't want to push the single too heavy and then really regret it on the back downs. So here we are at 405 pounds, which is slightly more than 5 kilos lower than the single. It's like 15 pounds, which would be something like 6.5 kilos. But I wanted to play it safe, and then next week we can continue to progress that. And for these 3 sets of 4, I'm definitely pretty happy with how they moved. We'll go ahead and watch that. I think my all-time best with 405 is a set of 6, and that wasn't paused. I think here I definitely could have done a pause set of 5, and if not, maybe ground out a set of 6 with a very solid pause. So I'm happy with the momentum on bench here. I would really like to hit a bench PR at this competition. Lastly, for the day, we had a heavy double at 685 on deadlift. I definitely felt some fatigue creep in from the squats and the rest of the week, the short turnaround. But all in all, jumping straight to a heavier weight like this, it moved pretty well, right? So I'm not going to complain with how that moved. I think there will be room to progress that, especially in the coming weeks where my rest schedule is going to be a little more consistent. And then 2 back down sets of 5 at 605 pounds. So here this is. These were easy work, right? It was the same sets of 5 as I had last week, but I would argue to say they were easier this week. So nice progress. Overall, I'm feeling great. Diet's moving along exactly to plan, so I can't complain about that. A little bit of travel early in the next week, but I'll be back for the heavy day and be back on schedule a little bit, so that'll be good. And yeah, so 6 weeks out, moving well, looking forward to continuing our journey toward North Americans. Thank you all for watching. Drop a like if you haven't already, and subscribe. And until next time, happy lifting.